I'm with you on Ask Chuck webcast. I do it weekly while we're in session. Now remember, next week we will not be in session, so I won't be asking for your questions. We answer a couple questions this way, orally. What questions come in that we don't answer this way, we'll answer in writing by postal mail. I thank you very much for participating with questions from Twitter, Facebook, or email. And I'll go immediately to the questions. We have Brent of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, from Facebook saying, keep putting pressure on the ATF. That's Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, a division of the Department of Justice. And I thank you very much for what you said. Brent, obviously you've been following what I've been doing in the sense of my questioning through the constitutional responsibility I have of oversight of the executive branch of government. Why are we having a project called Project Gun Runner, in which we're knowingly selling guns to straw men with the idea that they may get to some of the drug cartel across the border in Mexico and somehow be able to arrest some drug kingpin or cartel kingpin. Bottom line, a lot of people during the process of this program going on for several months, people at the lower levels of ATF raised questions about whether it was the right thing to do and prophesying some bad things would happen. Well, some bad things did happen. A Border Patrol person by the name of Terry was murdered by one of these guns. And so I'm trying to get to the bottom of it, trying to protect the whistleblowers that come forth with the information. That's kind of an update. And I don't have all the information yet, but as your admonition, Brent, I'm going to keep on top of it and keep pursuing it. Second question comes from Facebook, Andrew of Carter Lake, Iowa. Why are we so dependent upon foreign oil when we have wells drilled all over the continental United States? Or rather than having wells drilled all over, the capability of drilling more wells and finding more oil? It's kind of a policy that has been promoted by environmental groups in the United States that certain parts of the United States should be out of bounds for drilling. And of course, I'm an advocate for more domestic production, and with more domestic production, be less dependent on foreign sources of oil. Before oil shot up here so much recently, we were spending $730 million a day for importing oil. That money would go to dictators like Chavez that hates us, or they would go to oil sheiks that train terrorists to kill Americans and Europeans. It doesn't sound like a very good policy to be more dependent when we could be less dependent. And so I'm an advocate for drill here and drill now. But quite frankly, the policy of this administration has been moving in another direction because, you know, they took drilling in the Gulf off base because of the spill, and now they're very slowly going back, but too slowly going back to allowing drilling there. In fact, there's no additional drilling yet. Hopefully there will be. They announced a year ago you could drill off the east coast of the United States. They've withdrawn that. Bush had announced drilling off of Alaska, and they've withdrawn that opportunity to drill. States like Utah and Nevada are 70% owned by the federal government. They're not national parks. There could be drilling there, but the Secretary of Interior is reviewing whether or not they ought to be allowed to drill there. And so there's just a lot of negativism coming out of this administration on drilling here in the United States. And I hope with a high price of gasoline at $3.59 and maybe higher by the time you watch this, it'll bring increased pressure on this administration to change their policies. Thank you very much for your interest in drilling here and drilling now. During this week, the Senate will be doing basically three things. One, we approve some nominees that the President sends up. Number two, we will be working on a couple small business bills before the United States Senate to help small business through the Small Business Administration. And we're also going to pass another continuing resolution so that we don't shut down government. But in the process of passing that continuing resolution, we're still on a proportionate basis trying to save the $61 billion that had passed the House about a month ago. And that $61 billion is about equivalent. I say $61 billion because there's only 7 months left in this fiscal year. But on a 12-month basis, that'd be about equivalent to the $100 billion that that the Republicans promised in the last election that they would save. The week after next, we'll have another Ask Chuck webcast because we aren't in session next week. So please tune in and send your questions in at that time.